Good morning. That's amazing. So the light's actually reflecting on the marble inside. It's a reflection of the reflection of the reflection. It's interesting also that our readings today are also reflections on reflections. We have very deep quotations from Genesis and Jeremiah, Exodus, Hosea, because we're all built together. The whole cosmos is built together from the same kind of atoms, and the same kind of subatomic particles. And it all is developed layer upon layer. And so our universe is built, and our culture is built, and our history is built. And the great insights that reflection gives us, enriches us as we progress in life and reflect on our childhood, reflect on the family history, reflect on our country, our country's history, our people's history, our own history in our own particular life, our people's history, the history of the church, the history of humanity. And their great wisdom is to be received. What a different sky we have today than yesterday. Amazing, isn't it? There's a group of priests here who are celebrating 25 years of ordination, and 5 in the group are 50 years ordained. We all need times of reflection to ponder, to gather our thoughts, to pray. And sunrise means so much to everybody, to a little child and to a grandparent. The beauty of nature, of creation, the gift of new life. I think for all of us who belong to the northern part of the northern hemisphere, it's always fascinating to see flowers at the end of December. We're further south in the northern hemisphere here, south enough to have flowers at the end of December. And so we have the flowers today of holiness, of martyrdom, of consecration, of sacrifice, and the Feast of the Holy Innocents. That dog is barking from our neighboring Franciscans here. In the dawn of our history as a community around Jesus, we have the deep roots of 2,000 years of history from Genesis. Rachel is mentioned today. The memory of her birth is still, as we go into Bethlehem from Jerusalem, there's still her tomb, Rachel's tomb. Our soul has been rescued like a bird from the fowler's snare. And the first reading from John, he's kind of the author we have for Christmas season in a big way. This letter of the first letter of John about God is light, and in him there is no darkness at all. Which is interesting because, yesterday we had he's surrounded by darkness and cloud, the experience of Moses and Mount Sinai. But then John's experience here at the Sea of Galilee, following the Master, where do you live? Spending the afternoon with him. From then on, it's a growing in the light. The sun is rising. This is why also we celebrate Christmas at this time of the year. It's not a statement that Jesus was born on 25th of December. Salvation coming from the east. The sun rising, life rising every morning from the east. At sunrise, the true sun has risen, the true light coming into the world. God is light, and in him there is no darkness at all. And there's a great darkness and deceit. And Herod deceives the wise men coming from the east, bringing an announcement that a king is born. And immediately Herod is thinking of himself, and his own power base is being challenged. The foundations of his throne, which really for him were violence. He even killed his own sons when he perceived that they might threaten his power. What incredible dysfunctionality. And how many power brokers today in the world. But we might not start thinking about the international scene, or if we do, that's also okay, but we need to think about our own kitchens, classrooms, workplaces. Everybody exerts power. And very often innocent people are victims. In him there is no darkness at all. It's a great challenge for people in power to not let darkness invade their minds, their thinking. People in power could also be a spouse that has certain gifts in certain situations in providence and can exert power over a spouse. It might be physical, but it could also be psychological. It could also be certain information about faults and failings of a spouse and leverage that against their spouse. The abuse of power, the abuse of talents to do evil and not to do good. In him there is no darkness. In God there's only redemption and salvation. Only goodness and mercy. And the amazing thing is then that through the evil of this whole attack on newborn innocence, newly conceived in the womb innocence, newly born innocence, that God is amazingly capable of bringing forth good. And there's much more networking in God's plan than we realize. And there was another king, a man in total power, absolute power, and he wanted to snuff out the little children. And it's no coincidence that this Egypt is involved in this story. Out of Egypt I have called my child. And there we see then the deep history of Joseph, who brought help to his brothers. And here a Joseph who brings help to his little boy, entrusted to him for his care. What an extraordinary father this Joseph is in the midst of the horrors of violence, of power. of new life. And these dynamics play out in our culture today. Just like in the year, the seasons change around, the waves of culture, they continue to come around, waves of decay and decadence, waves of violence, followed by waves of simple people doing the right thing, doing the good thing, protecting life, nurturing life, times of great social brokenness. How many Josephs we need today. What a great call it is to be a father, or to be a foster father, to be a stepfather, to be there to help. To be there to save, to be there to rescue first responders. The great work medical people do when tragedy surrounds us. To walk in the light, this first reading has such wonderful lines, but if we walk in the light as he is in the light, then we have fellowship with one another. When there's deceit, untruthfulness, fake positions, fake news, cover up, our fellowship is broken. Our society suffers hurt. And rebuilding is so difficult. In a sense, none of us can throw stones because we all know our own brokenness a little bit at least. We can ask the Lord to reveal it to us in little bits because we wouldn't be able to see it all. And to be redeemed, Lord, have mercy. To pray for those who are enmeshed in these networks of violence and destruction. But also in our own kitchens and families and homes, sometimes we're in patterns of unhelpful behavior, unhelpful comments. There's so much hurt in our hearts, we express things that reveal that. An ugly smelling sulfur coming out in our words. And then those who have the generosity and the patience and the kindness and the humility to bring out words of healing, words of protection, to protect, to create an environment, to bring that child to a place that's safe, an emotional space that's safe, a music, a smile, a song, a game. What a calling we have today to provide spaces for little ones who could also be very old, little ones who are in their 70s or 80s, little ones who are addicted, God's little ones who are depressed, little ones everywhere. Little ones could also be big tyrants who are now broken and who need a word of encouragement and salvation and hope. To have an eye to recognize where there are little ones. Maybe they were very arrogant or tyrannical at one point in their lives. Now they're little ones, they're broken, they're repenting. A broken heart you will not spurn, O Lord. So let's not be judgmental but redemptive, like God's heart is redemptive. that new light can come out where darkness reigned, because God is all light. Our soul has been rescued like a bird from the fowler's snare. What a blessing it is to help that rescue.